The money is going in the wrong direction. The money does not flow from one place to another one, and when it does happen to flow, it often does not take into account the gender and income differentiated needs. And public finance is required to try to address these three key challenges. A key role of the public finance is to make sure that we have in place the policy environment and the financial instruments needed to de-risk investment. In order for the money to go from currently assets earning negative return toward climate resilient assets, what we have to do is to make sure that the risk-reward profile of the investment is attractive, that we use public money to de-risk the investment and make them extremely competitive. And so how can we de-risk this investment? The Green Climate Fund can use any kind of grant and non-grant instruments. And so if a developing country needs some grant, we can provide the grant in order to develop the policy environment, for example, simplify the licensing processes for siting a solar park. If a country needs for example, concessional finance or guarantees or equity investment, we can also provide it. We are capital agnostic. And so the key role of public finance and public finance mechanism such as the GCF is to make sure that the private finance goes in the right direction through making the risk-reward profile of this investment attractive. So that's the first thing, developing a vision that carries a lot of hope. Only hope triggers action. The fear triggers defensive mechanism. The second thing is put in place a policy environment to favorize this kind of initiatives. And having, for example, regulations that facilitate some type of investment, regulations that discourage other type of investment. After deepening one's national domestic financial systems. And the GCF works a lot with central banks, works a lot with national commercial and development banks to enable them to put in place, to mainstream climate risk into their investment, enable them to develop green securities, enable them to develop new institutions such as, for example, green banks. The total amount of finance that will be required to prevent catastrophic climate change will very much depend on innovation. We need innovation in order to reduce cost and increase benefits. But when we're speaking about innovation, we should be speaking about institutional, financial, technological, policy innovation, not only about technological innovation. For example, at the turn of the 19th century, a key innovation, the limited company, enabled investors to pool money and share risk. And this institutional innovation, the limited company, basically is certainly one of the reasons why we were able to generate the huge financial flow needed for the Industrial Revolution. And so today we have to look at what kind of institutional innovation, what kind of business model could also be extremely transformative.